Hi, welcome to Aiken This Week. I'm Glenn Parker. Our guest today really requires no introduction for anybody that's lived in Aiken for really any period of time. He's Fred Cavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Aiken. Mayor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Appreciate it.
I think you're our first elected official to be on the show, and hopefully the rest of council will follow your lead and join us someday on the show. If you will, let me take just a minute or two, and I want to read to the audience here a little bit of your background and your history, just for those of them that may not know it. The mayor moved to Aiken with his family in 1953 from Richmond, Virginia. He graduated from Aiken High School, and he's a cadet from Virginia Military Academy. Worked at DuPont for 30 and a half years, and then after the switch over, he worked with the Westinghouse Savannah River Company for another 6 years. He was first elected to the City Council in November of '85. He was appointed Mayor Pro Tem in '87, re-elected in 1989. Then he became mayor in 1991, and I think here's the astonishing fact. He was re-elected in 95, 99, 2003, 2007, and finally in 2011. Quite a record.
Yeah, I don't know where the time's gone, really.
I think it just means both of us are getting old.
Especially me.
Why not? Let's talk a little bit about, before we get into City Council and what you've done in Aiken, let's talk about you a little bit first. What brought your family to Aiken?
My dad was transferred here for the Savannah River site. He worked at DuPont up in Richmond. And so that's what brought us here. And from day one, I grew to love Aiken so much because we'd come from a big city. And on the way down here, he had to take some training in a very small city, so we were there for a couple of years before we came to Aiken. So we were actually coming from a smaller city than Aiken, so it was quite a good thing as far as I was concerned. And I was in high school, sophomore in high school, and played sports and just enjoyed it so much, and have ever since. I mean, this is a place that I love and will stay. Lord willing.
That's right. Well, as I understand it, when your family first moved to Crosland Park, when you first moved to Aiken, you lived in Crosland Park. Tell us about Crosland Park back in those days.
Sure, it was very nice because let me say this: before we came in at a time when Masters was going on, tournament, and we stayed in outside of the city, and in a little, very small place. And so actually when we moved to Crosland Park, it was bigger than where we had to stay waiting, for a place. But, it was filling up fast with people, the same as my dad. They were coming in to work at the site. And, but it was a fun place. We got to meet a lot of folks, and we stayed there for about 7 months while a home was being built. And so I would say this: it was very nice based on what else was available at that time, because you know as well as I do, I think we had about 8,000 people in Aiken at that time. Okay. And with all these hundreds of people coming in, and then thousands, you were happy to have a place a nice place to stay. So all that worked out real well for us.
Good. Yeah, a lot of folks don't remember there was Virginia Acres. It was very similar to Crosland Park.
That's right.
Most of those homes are just gone today, though. So that's interesting. Now, in '85, you decided to get involved in politics for some reason. Was there any one particular thing that was driving you at that time to run for council?
No, it really wasn't. I had a friend that mentioned to me that he thought that I ought to run for council. And I thought about it for a long time, and I was thinking, well, with my background, military, engineering, working with DuPont, had several different jobs at DuPont. So I thought I had a fairly good background, even in purchasing, and to be able to do that and to give something back, so to speak, to the city that I really love. And so that was really the motivation. There wasn't any particular thing that was the motivation.
Okay.
Just the thought, and several other people came to me also at that time. And it's just one of those things, you know, you can't explain it to much. I think the Lord was working in that.
Sure.
And so that's how it happened.
Okay, well, and then, I was going to say, then 6 years in, Mayor Weeks, after a long tenure as mayor, he decided to hang it up, and you chose to run for mayor.
That's right. That's right. You know, when I came in, of course, I was a councilman, and for 6 years. But 4 of those, I was mayor pro tem.
Okay.
So, you know, really that was my motivation to run for, you know, mayor. And because I had worked with him, you know, the last couple of years, Glenn, you probably know this well, his health was not the best.
Sure. Right.
And there were things that he couldn't do outside of council meetings and that kind of thing. Of course, he still did that. So I helped him as much as I could, and whenever he wanted me to. And so, you know, during that time, and I was fortunate to be elected mayor pro tem. I felt like, look, this is something I like to do, and I want to do, and the opportunity was there, so I did it. And I was, again, very fortunate to be elected. And so the rest is history, which is, you know, when I think about it, it's amazing to me that I was able to be elected each time, and I appreciate that so much from the citizens, because I understand that we work for the citizens, you know.
Sure.
They're our boss, and I've always thought that way, and still do. And so that was what happened, and but no, at the time there was no one thing.
Okay.
It was kind of a lot of things I felt like I could accomplish and give to the city, and I think some of those happened. Some of the things.
With that being said, you've always sort of carried the motto of a mayor for all. I'm sure that's not easy, because there's been times when you've had to sit up here and oppose or vote against probably some of your friends, your coworkers, your church members, and those kind of things. How have you balanced that over the years?
Well, I'm going to say it's pretty easy, in a way, because it depends on how you feel about things. First of all, I wanted, and all council members I think want it, they want the best for the city. Number one, the best. What each of us think is the best. And of course, you've got to do a lot of research sometimes and talk to people to find out what their views are, and this is good. This is what we should do, as to what you finally come up with what is best. What is the best thing to do? And so I found it kind of easy, because once I do that, or did that, then I just do what I think is right and what's best. It's not like I sit here saying, oh my goodness, you know, so-and-so is probably going to vote another way, and somebody else is, and hey, I might be the only one, you know, that goes the other way. But still in all, I try to look at what I think is best for Aiken, and that's it. And I've never really had any problems, you know, no one's ever said anything to me about, hey, you didn't vote the way we did, or anything like that. And we don't ask each other. You know, we don't go out at council meetings and call people up and say, hey, how are you going to vote? What are you going to vote for? That kind of thing. Now, you might talk one-on-one to somebody about something you don't understand, to learn. and I've always tried to do that too. Anyway, that's how that all came about.
Interesting. Since you moved to Aiken and started serving on city council, a lot of changes, number of different changes with the city and with city government and with the city and the county and as a whole. What are some of the changes you may be most proud of over the years?
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to read from a list because I've got about 5 here that I want to point out. I think in all my study, going back and looking at things that have happened, I think that the most important thing that's happened in Aiken is the beautification of Aiken that took place from 86 to 93. And it was just, the city was in bad shape at that time. There were probably a quarter of the businesses and maybe a couple more that were out of business. And there were so many other things in Aiken that needed fixing and changing and to be better. So I'm gonna hold this up. This is a paper that came out, and it says, "Beautiful Aiken is no accident." And it shows what Aiken was like. No trees, just no good looks about Aiken at all at that point in time. So I tell you, again, I can't say all the people that got together because it was a multitude of people that got together on this. But anyway, this will show, and I'm going to give this to the paper, of all the many things that were done to beautify and to improve our city at that time. From new homes here. This was a car place where painting and what have you. It was ugly, to say the least. And this is right across from the Hotel Aiken, by the way, and it's beautiful now as a result of this. And there were so many eyesores here. And let me say also that Aiken Corporation played a big hand in all of this, along with the city. I mean, we had all kinds of people, all levels, businesses, the site, and you name it. And it was so productive what we see today. The Chamber of Commerce, the new chamber, and we received many municipal awards because of what was done here, that we would get praise over, if you will, from the Municipal Association for the things that Aiken has done. So that's a sample of what was done, which was major to me. Another one later on, where we also needed to expand and we needed to raise money for downtown, for the schools, and for other purposes, is called A Vision for the Future, Aiken 2020. And that consisted of, again, Ambrose Swally leaded that. Ambrose was the leader out at the site at that time. And as a matter of fact, a little side issue here, I was asked, because I worked out there at the time, I was asked to go up and ask Mr. Swally if he would be the chair of this committee. And never will forget it, bless his heart. I went in his office, scared to death, never been up there before in his office. And he said, "Mr. Cavanaugh, what do you want?" And so I told him that I was sent by a group of people to ask him if he would be the chair of Aiken 2020. And I never will forget this. He turned around and he said, "Look over here on my desk. You see all those things on my desk? Over here, I've got people asking me to do different things all the time." I said, "Sir, let me ask you this. Before you say no, would you be willing to come to a meeting with other people, and we'll sit around with others who perhaps can do a much better job than I did to tell you what we'd like for you to do?" And he thought for a moment or two, and he said, I'll think about it. I think that 2 weeks went by before someone heard about it. He didn't call me back. He called one of the other leaders and said, yes, I've talked to Mr. Cavanaugh. I'll come to a meeting. And so he did. And and the rest of it is history. He said, yes, I'll do this. Oh, one thing I told him is, I don't think it's going to take a lot of your time. That's what some of the other folks were saying. So I told him that too, and he looked kind of funny about that, yeah, kind of thing. But anyway, he agreed to do it. We went on and on for 5 years with lots of folks involved, raised $3,500,000 for various things here. Education Improvement Foundation, economic development, community development, annual total for this, and other things too. So it was highly successful, highly successful.
And a lot of those are the anchors downtown today.
Absolutely, Glenn, absolutely. Those two things are so important to our city. And one thing we don't know about quite yet, hopefully we'll find out it's a truism, that the Hotel Aiken, we hope that will also come to pass, the improvement to that. And that's the center post of our downtown. If anything needs to be improved, that does. And I hope and pray that will come to fruition here, and I think it will. Citizens Park was another thing. Citizens Park as well, you were out there and you were the leader at the PRT. And that has meant so much to Aiken, bringing thousands of people to Aiken every year, and to see the kids play and learn and those kind of things, and to know that you've got one of the best parks in the state. And I think that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel, but
I'm a little biased.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, but it's amazing. Just recently, we had soccer tournaments and the boys, Dixie Boys League.
Correct.
And by the way, I don't have that with me. It would take too much time to read it because it's a nice long sentence that was sent to me by a family that came all the way from Canada to participate in the Boys League, in the boys. And they said glowing things about Aiken. They said they've never been to a place, they've been all over the place, but they've never been to a place like Aiken, and how lovely the city is, and how well the folks did in making that tournament move forward. And public safety, they praised public safety for what they did. And they said when it came time to leave the next Sunday, I guess that came on a Thursday, said nobody wanted to go back. And they ended by saying, we can't wait to come back in 16.
Good.
That to me is the ultimate. What more can you say about that? And there may be one more thing that the All-America City.
Oh, sure.
The All-American City. 1 out of 10, 1 in 10, there were 10 of them. And out of 150, I think, applications for the All-America City. And we had a team that went out to Kansas City and performed and said what they wanted to say about Aiken, good things about their 3 different subjects, and came out a winner there. So that's something certainly to be proud of. And I'll take advantage here of this too at the time. This is the All-American City, and what came out in the paper, and that all the folks that worked hard on this to be praised for the work they did, and not only the citizens but businesses and that kind of thing. And they're the main things. You know, there's so many things, Glenn,
Sure.
as
Sure.
you well know. You could go on and on and on, and I've got a whole list. But to me, those are among the main things.
The main ones. Let's talk about one thing that you've sort of championed over your tenure, and that's the Character First program. And I bring that up. I was at the council meeting last night, and there was a topic for discussion, and you mentioned that we as employees of the city and as residents of the city, we need to make sure we're emphasizing character when we make some of the tough decisions that had to be made at the council meeting last night. And you've lived out that Character First program. Tell us a little bit. I've heard the history of how you found out about it. Tell us a little bit about that program and what it's meant to you over the years.
Well, it's meant a great deal to me. Character is one of those things that nobody can ever take away from you. You know, you can say that people can take your clothes, they can take your house, they can do this and that and the other, but if you've got good character, no one can ever take that away from you. And I think that, and I learned so much from my mom and dad, you know, growing up in the military, VMI, and I just feel strongly about character. Not that I'm perfect by any means. Nobody's perfect, let's face it, nobody. But at least you can try to be as good as you can. And I've tried to do that. Failed many times, I know, but I tried. But you know, over time, the first few years I was mayor, you get these publications come in the mail, and it says, come to this, come to this, come to this, learn this. And I never felt good about any of those, really. And one day I got one on character. Come to Indianapolis, you know, and learn how to build a community of character. And I said, hey, I need to do this. So I went. And it was very exciting, and what they said meant something. You know, it really meant something that I liked and wanted to push forward. So I brought it back. I brought all the information back, and an article got put in the paper. I didn't put it in there. I don't know who did, about the trip and all. And I immediately got a call from East Aiken Elementary. They wanted me to come out there. 7 of them wanted me to come out there and tell them about this the next day. So I took all my stuff out there and papers and went out there and talked to them. And I gave everything to them because I knew I could get more
Sure.
of the information. And so they picked up on character in that school first, the first school to do that. And they progressed. They had wonderful meetings. The teachers started off doing it, having, you know, all the kids in, talking character, and then they went to the kids to do some of that. And then they went to books that had character basis in the books. And the kids did that. The kids would do the character things that were in the books. And I went out there for many years. I haven't been in a while, but I would go for many years at first. And it slowly went to other cities as well. Not other cities, but other schools. And I went to several of the other schools as well. And and plus, you know, we have the event every year for the young people. In the schools, by the way, their teachers pick, and it's hard to do, I know this, but they pick several kids that have what they think is good, very good character, excellent character, I want to say. But and so, and all the schools come together once a year for the big character meeting that we have. They get certificates from the ladies, and we've got so many wonderful ladies,
Sure.
and men.
Yeah.
But and they come up to the podium, you know, and I've been shaking hands with them, and they get something from the city as a sign of their good character. And so that's happened. That's happened many years. It's called Character First. This is a little booklet each year that's put out by the leaders, the women's clubs, the joint women's clubs, and it has all the kids in here named that will come up and receive their certificates. And so far, in 15 years, I've had over 4,000 school-age kids. And I say kids, some of them in high school, because it goes all the way up to the high school. And they're not kids, but the whole range, 4,000 have had this good character, according to their teachers.
Right.
And so that's about the main story of that. And I hope, yes, we do have the sign right up there and back. And I mentioned that last night, alluded to that.
Right.
And so I hope it continues. I think it will. Hey, by the way, we have character ed for our employees as well. It's not mandatory. I'd say we have at least 50 to maybe 70, sometimes a little bit more, that come to that. You've been to that. And Steve Swenson, our instructor, has been doing this for 15 years and has never missed a day. So, well, I'll stop at that. I better,
No, you're fine. Our time's running short, so let me ask you this.
Okay.
In November, there's going to be an election, and for the first time in a while, you're not on the ballot.
Yeah.
There's two people, though, who want to...
Should I cry or should I?
or shout. Councilwoman Price or local businessman Rick Osmond will be our next mayor. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I've got several things. Number one, never forget who has put you in office and who you serve. Because sometimes it's pretty easy to get off track, you think you're in charge and what have you. You're not really in charge. You're responsible for doing certain things, obviously, but our citizens are the ones that put us in our place, wherever that is. So never forget that. One of my mottos is listen more than you speak. And you notice at city council meetings, I don't speak a whole lot. I'll speak out when I know that I need to speak, on an issue that I feel extremely strong. But I listen to council members because I can learn more listening.
Sure.
And I do. I mean, back and forth is good most of the time. So that's another one. And so those are two main things, I would say. Be your own person too. Don't change because all of a sudden, you're mayor. Don't change. Be the same. You're same as you always are, and do the best job you can. Work closely with the city manager.
Sure.
And staff and your other colleagues up here. So
I know over the last 40 years, one of your strongest supporters, always in the background, has been your wife, Lee. Anything you want to share about her impact on your career? Or?
Oh, it's been amazing. I would not be sitting here talking to you if she felt any different about me being on council. She has supported me every way and that you can think of it, and been there. Now, I will say this. 4 years ago, she suggested that I not run again. And so we talked about that a bit, and I said, well, golly, I've got to be doing something I like. And I feel like I'm helping a little bit. So we run around and around a little bit on that. Not mean-spirited.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so she finally said, okay. And I said, and I promised her that I would not run again. And so over the 4 years, you know, it's been open. You know, people knowing that probably knowing I wasn't going to run because I'd said that, and that's fine. But that's the way that happened. But she's been a great supporter. I couldn't ask for anyone. No one else would I ask for. Let me put it that way. She's my love, and she's also my prayer warrior.
Which is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. She prays a lot about the city and what's going on in the city and and city council members, as I do. So
Good.
can't think of anything more about that.
Understand.
It's been wonderful being with her, and
Well, thank you for not just coming on the show, but for what you've done for the city. It's been an honor for me to work with you over the years.
Well, Glenn, let me say the same thing about you. What a wonderful gift you've been to the city over these years. And you've had it, what, 30 years?
30 years.
30? Mm-hmm. And now you're still going.
Still going for some reason.
And best to everything here for you and family.
Thank you.
That you're going to Augusta. That's a big job.
It is.
But boy, you've done a wonderful job here, so you won't have any trouble.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
But we're going to miss you, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
I appreciate that.
And I do want to say one other quick thing, if I could. I'm also proud of our staff for going 26 years without a millage increase. That is not done by many cities. I don't know of any. Not raising your taxes, your property taxes, that is, the millage. 26 years without a raising. And I hope that we won't have to do it, that it won't continue. But I will say this, if we have another minute, on the sales tax issue that we have, the capital sales tax issues, that is so important to us. For so many reasons. The infrastructure, you name it, buildings, public safety needs some change. They need a new fire building, I think, and then an expansion on their headquarters. And there are just so many things that tax covers. And I would hope that the citizens would really approve it again in 2018 when it comes up. Because that is one thing that also helps us to not have to raise property taxes. I mean, you're talking about $40 million, $44 million coming in over a period of 7 years to do wonderful things for our city. And if you don't have that penny tax, if you don't have that, where are you going to get the money to do all these other things that you need to do? And there are things that need to be done, obviously.
And that's not just in the city, that's countywide.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So we just hope that will come to pass, that it'll be approved again by the citizens. But again, it's the citizens making the decision.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Well, let me just wrap up our show here today. The mayor alluded to the fact that I'm leaving the city. This will be my last show. I want to thank a couple of people. John Clem, our city manager, it was his idea to start this show and to give us the freedom to create it and make it what we have. Tim O'Brien with the Aiken Standard, who for some reason felt like I could be a host, and I hope I've lived up to part of what Tim thought I could be. And then the guy behind the camera over here, you never get to see him, but James Grigsby sets all this up and makes it work, and we really appreciate that. Your next show, you'll have a new host who looks a lot better than I do, I can promise you. It's Emery Langston, and Emery will do a great job. She's got a great personality. She's sitting out here today just thinking about all the ways she's going to change it and make it her own show. So we're looking forward to her coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, and have a great week.